I need to. Stop video. Stop video for a second. Oh, wait.
I have no idea what was going on.
That's okay.
Yay!
All right, let me admit those who were here.
Yeah.
Okay. And there was somebody that's just registered right before, and I don't know how I may try and get them after I get you guys talking.
Sure.
But let me welcome everyone to our virtual children's author picture book panel. I just want to quickly repeat the Zoom meeting rules. All but the hosts and the panelists are going to stay muted. If you have questions, put them in the chat room. And you should see that at the bottom of your screen. There's a thing with chat. I got some of your questions in advance, and I'll be posing those in a minute. I want to note that we're recording this meeting, so if you have to leave early, I'm going to make it available. I'll either do it, I'm trying to set up a YouTube channel for our bookstore, and that's probably where I'll post it. In either case, I'll let you know by email. I've got your emails collected in a children's literature file, so in case we have other events like this, I would like to let you know, but if you'd rather I remove your email, let me know afterwards, okay? And if we only get through half the questions today, we can schedule another part 2 session. It may feature a couple different authors, but we'll see. Anyway, at this point, I want to introduce our panelists. We're excited to have Valerie Bolling from Connecticut, Zeena Pliska from California, Tameka Fryer Brown from North Carolina, and Kirstie, do you say Myvett or Myvett?
Myvett.
Myvett from Louisiana. We've gone all over the country. So let me tell you a little bit about these ladies, and then I'm going to start asking some questions. Valerie Bolling is an educator and author with a vision and passion for inclusiveness in children's literature. I should, what have I done to myself? There. Oh, no. Okay. You see, I have a double and triple chin. Yeah. Her first picture book, Let's Dance. Let's see. I've got too many books all around me.
I'm holding mine up. They
There
can.
we go. Let's Dance, okay? It came out, didn't it come out in April?
March, actually, March 3rd.
Okay, it was released in March, and we featured her reading her book in a recent story time here at the Book Bungalow. And that's where we came up with this idea to do a children's author panel. It's an interactional book that gets kids moving as they learn about dances from around the world. In addition to writing picture books, she creates a monthly memo for teachers that she publishes on Twitter. And she's been published in the National Writing Project's Quarterly and NESCBWI News. That must be the Northeast division of the society.
Yeah, New England. Yep, New England SCBWI. Exactly.
Okay. She's taught in elementary and middle schools and currently serves as an instructional coach, collaborating with middle and high school teachers to improve student performance. In addition, a poem she wrote has been accepted for publication by Cricket Media's Baby Buck magazine. So welcome, Valerie.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here, Tanya.
Okay. Then we have Zeena Pliska.
I have it up too.
Yeah, you got it too, yeah.
It's within reach.
Okay, she spends her days immersed in the joy of 5-year-olds. She's a kindergarten teacher by day, a children's book author by night in Los Angeles, California. A progressive public school educator, she believes that the most important aspect of teaching is listening to children. A lifetime storyteller, she has facilitated stories as a theater director, visual artist, photographer, and journalist. She's proud to have found a new way to facilitate story as a children's book author. Her debut picture book, Hello Little One, a monarch butterfly story from Page Street Kids, came out May 12th, 2020. Her second picture book, Egyptian Lullaby from Roaring Brook Press, is due out in 2021. You have to come and do an event. Hopefully by then, maybe it will, well, we'll see.
It's okay, these events are fun. So, it's easier to do this than to fly to Utah.
And when you were muted before, I said you should do a prequel to this so you can use that butterfly cape for another.
Right?
Zeena is half Egyptian and half Filipino. She loves traveling near and far with her own little one, Zoe Amal. Okay.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Now, Tameka Fryer Brown thought she was going to be a lawyer when she was young. Then in college, she changed her mind and majored in business, and afterwards became a medical supplies sales rep. The job required too much travel, however, and once she became a full-time mother, or FTM, as she puts it, she finally settled on writing because it was at the top of her list of talents. And both she and her children loved to read picture books, and she thought, what better thing can I do than write some children's picture books? So she has been published by both Penguin Random House and Macmillan with such titles as My Cold Plum Lemon Pie Bluesy Mood and Around Our Way on Neighbor's Day. And her latest is Brown Baby Lullaby. And she also was in We Rise, We Resist.
We Raise Our Voices.
We Raise Our Voices, yeah. And she was part of that. And then finally, Kirstie Myvett. Her book's not out yet. We don't even have a cover to show you because it comes out in November. But she developed a passion for books at a young age. She wrote her first story at age 12, won an essay contest in high school that reaffirmed her desire to pursue writing. She has lived in Tianmu, Taiwan, and Sao Paulo, Brazil, and enjoys learning about different cultures and peoples. She is fortunate to reside in the rich cultural city of New Orleans, where her debut picture book takes place. It's entitled Praline Lady, and it tells the story of a day in the life of a 19th century woman who sells pralines in the French Quarter. It's due to be released, like I said, by Pelican Publishing this November. And so, without further ado, let's start in with some questions. I'm going to read first, and I put, for those of you who might be, I put in the chat box, I put some of their websites and our bookstore website where you can order their books, okay? If you go to that page. Anyways, so as we discuss, if pictures come up, if questions come up in your mind, please go ahead and enter them in the chat room. Okay, first from Janet Johnson. She asks, a few years back, the trend for picture books was fewer and fewer words. An example used was Ghosts in the House by Kazumo Kihara. Would you say that trend is still true? Now, who of you, probably Tameka should answer this because she's been doing this longer, I think.
Yeah, I've been doing this for a minute. And when I started 12 years ago, they were definitely telling us shorter is better, shorter is better. The sweet spot is about 500 words. But I have noticed, and you guys can chime in, I have noticed that directive is kind of loosening up. And there's 1,000-word picture books. Kelly Starling Lyons is one of the authors that comes to mind. Her picture books, beautiful picture books, are often a little bit on the longer side, But I think that is kind of a trend. Also, the thing is, whatever it takes for you to tell your story is what you should write. Now, if you've got a 1,500 word picture book, that's kind of really long. But somewhere around 1,000 words, 1,100 words, if each and every word is essential to the story, and if it doesn't feel long, which is like you guys, I see you nodding, if it doesn't feel long and it feels necessary, then go ahead and use those words. But if it's repetitive and a lot of redundancy and fluff, then that's where you have an area to tighten. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think I agree with you, Tameka. I think it really depends. And I think, everyone wants to find the perfect home for his or her book. And I'm thinking of a friend of mine who actually had a book. She's in Ireland now, and the book is set in Ireland. And she got a lot of feedback that it was too long. It was too long. I forget how many words it was. And when the book was finally acquired, they actually wanted her to add more to it. So it just, I think, Tameka's right. You have to tell your story in your way. And I think sometimes agents and editors probably even say things that this is what they're looking for, but then they get something that they didn't even know that they were looking for it.
Right.
Right. Although, can I add really quickly from the standpoint of a kindergarten teacher? I think when you're writing, you also want to imagine that a kindergarten teacher or a very tired parent is going to be reading this book. And I definitely have noticed with children, their attention spans are shorter and more bite-sized because that's the way we're living our lives these days. And parents are also having shorter and bite-sized realities, basically. So I also think as a writer, you also want to think about who your audience is. And I know that if a book is shorter, I'm more inclined to read it as a kindergarten teacher because I don't have any behavior issues. But if I'm reading a really long story, then I'm going to start to have kids that are not able to concentrate. And then it sets us in a totally different direction. So just one more added thing is that you may want to also really not just think about the editors, but think about the teacher and parent that's going to read the book.
And what's the recommended typical word count for a picture book? Do they?
Like I said, it used to be 500 was a sweet spot. I wouldn't be surprised if that's kind of shifted a little bit to 700. But
how long was yours? This last one?
The last one, I think it's 200 and something words, maybe 300.
Okay.
Right.
What about you, Zeena?
I mean, I think it started out like 500 and something, and I think it hovers somewhere around 700.
Okay.
And but I want to point out, Zeena's is also nonfiction.
Mine is fiction.
It's fiction, but it's got that sort of nonfiction slant as well. So it really depends. Mine is 60, which is very unusual. I will say at a conference, I think and again, I think it's fine for us to hear different information. Like as Tameka had heard the sweet spot was 500. And then I was at a conference back in the fall and there was someone there, I can't remember if it was an agent or editor, who was saying, actually, we're now even looking for sort of to go along with Zeena, less than 500. Like we prefer it sort of 300 to 500. So it just, it really depends.
Okay. How long is Praline Lady?
It's about 545 words, but I also like to write upper picture books for older kids, and that can go up to 1,000 or more.
Okay.
So I think it depends on who your audience and what your age group that you're trying to target.
Okay. All right.
And can I say one little more thing on that? It also depends on whether or not you're writing in poetry or prose.
Yeah.
Because a really long poem is not gonna, go over very well. So
Right. Okay. These two questions are from Carla Allred, who could not be here tonight, but I think, yeah. But she wanted, I was going to ask them anyway. I told her I'd send her a recording. What are the differences? And maybe you should ask, well, Kirstie, you might want to handle this. What are the differences between writing children's books for young children and then for older children?
I think with older children, you can delve into topics that may be a little bit more mature than compared to what you would write for younger children. So, for example, one story that I'm working on, it has a kind of racist element to it that I may not put in a book for younger children, but it was a law that happened in Louisiana in the 1700s. And so writing that for an older child would be more appropriate. That type of content, they could digest it probably better than a younger child would.
Are you talking about like a middle grader?
No, it would be an upper picture book.
Like first and second grade or second and third grade?
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
So like 10 years old, 9, 10, 11. Whereas I probably wouldn't write something like that for someone that's 5.
Right. Okay. Anyone else want to chime in on differences you see? This is going to tie into another question I have later, but.
I think your vocabulary as well. So, I mean, oftentimes I do write, I will tackle subjects, again, but I tackle those as a teacher. But the way it's phrased or the words that I use are very carefully chosen for a 5-year-old or a 4-year-old because they're very literal and they're at a completely different developmental level than a 6 or 7-year-old. So sometimes it comes down to a word choice and knowing that a younger child is going to take you literally. And so if you use a group of words that are not literal, that 5-year-old might miss the meaning. So.
Thank you. Okay. Now, she also wanted to know, when submitting the manuscript of a children's book, should you include suggested descriptions of the pictures you'd like to have? And if so, how do you include those? I'm going to have each of you take a turn with that. Zeena, you go first.
Sure. I'm actually kind of funny. I'm a visual artist. However, I hear picture books. I don't see them. I hear them. So I don't put very many illustration notes, and it's my understanding that you really only put an illustration note if it really affects the storytelling, and if you can't tell the story without that very, very, very specific illustration note. That said, the relationship with them, that you don't work with your illustrator, they are working on their own. But if you're trying to direct them, I mean, they bring a third of the book, really a half of the book, but I think Valerie at some point said it's a third because of the editor.
Yes.
But they bring, at the very least, at a minimum, they bring a third of the work to the story, and it is their work. It is not your work, it is their work. And so to try and direct them is kind of not really fair.
Okay, Tameka?
I agree. The only time that you really want to include an art note is when the text, it can't be in the text. For example, if your main character, if you're trying to point out something that's ironic and your main character says, oh, the sky is blue, this is going to be the most beautiful day ever. But, you want the illustration to show that the clouds are rolling in and it's about to have a downpour. That can't be in the text, right? So that's the kind of thing that you put in an illustration note. But as far as the color of her dress and what her hair looks like, you got to leave that up to the illustrator for his or her creativity.
So if you're going to add an illustration note like that, which would be rare, where you would put it in parentheses, how would you put that in?
Everybody's probably different. I personally put it off to the side in parentheses in red. That's my style.
Okay. Kirstie, Did you have anything to add?
I agree with everyone. I did not give illustrator notes. I was really curious to see how the illustrator interpreted the story, but I did share research photographs with her because it, you know, it is a historical story, and so that she could just have a point of reference.
Uh-oh.
I didn't get much of that because there was a really weird sound effect.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so I agree with the ladies. I didn't give illustrator notes.
Well,
Are you
that-
able to hear me?
Is everybody muted except, let's see. Yeah, I think everyone's, that's weird. It wasn't doing that before.
No,
Yeah.
it wasn't.
Kirstie, is your computer plugged in? I had that problem a couple of days ago. Maybe if you plug it in.
Valerie, how about you? Did you have any?
Sure. You know, and sometimes it's a lesson I'm still learning. I'm, you know, a new author, and I like to give a lot of detail, and I like to instruct, but I've realized that you're not supposed to do that. And what's interesting about Let's Dance is I had only one illustration note at the very end. The ending page is fall asleep, counting sheep, and I had a note that said the sheep are dancing. And the way I write illustrator notes is I use brackets, so not parentheses, I use brackets, and I italicize. And the editor actually asked me, she said, I want you to take your manuscript, and for each stanza that you have, I actually want you to put in the dance that you feel goes with that. So that was really interesting. She asked for that, and when I submitted it, and I'll just give one example, for the beginning page, tappity tap finger snap, I wrote tap dance. And she thought all my notes were fine. That was in July. She came back to me in October and said, you know, I think we're missing a real opportunity here. Your words can be matched to cultural dances. So she saw tappity tap finger snap as flamenco. And that happened with others, like glide and slide side to side. I had said electric slide or cha-cha slide, and she saw that as Chinese long sleeve dance. So back to what Zeena said, and then I'll end, is that's why I say I'm responsible for a third of the book. Maine, the illustrator, is responsible for a third, and Jess, our amazing editor, it was her vision that really, you know, I wanted a book about diverse children. I wanted it to be inclusive and show children who are often not seen in picture books, and she took it global.
That's great. Okay. Okay. Now, I write novels, you know, so this is a different thing. But I'm wondering, as picture book authors, if you have a regular writing process, and I'd like you to describe your writing process. And if you try to write every day or just wait till an idea strikes, why don't we start with Valerie and we'll go back down the line.
Sure. So just had some water. I knew I needed some. Sorry. So I know there are some people who say I write a little bit every day. What I have taken, excuse me. We should have someone else go. Sorry.
Okay.
I have a tickle.
Okay. Kirstie, let's see if you sound okay. Maybe headphones?
Am I okay now?
No.
I'm calling.
Okay. Tameka.
I tend to write by muse, which isn't a good thing. I'm trying to do the button chair method more often, but it seems for the books that I've had published, that writing by muse thing is kind of working for me. So that's kind of really what my natural tendency is.
Okay. Okay. Zeena?
Yeah, I would agree. I was the same way as a visual artist. I would only, even though I lived in a loft, I would create paintings or pieces if I had an exhibition coming up. I I don't know why I'm like that, but I would agree. I'm a bit undisciplined, but then I can also go for a very long stretch and write. But I also tend to jump in between genres. So sometimes I'm writing a picture book, and sometimes I'm writing a very, very, very dark novel, a YA novel. So I jump back and forth between being a novelist as well.
Okay.
I'm currently working on a novel that is a coming of age novel about the school shooter's twin sister. So it's dark. It's very dark. And right now I've been asked to write a graphic novel that I owe to my agent, and I have no idea how to write a graphic novel. I'm always in the process of learning a new, I'm always in the process of completing, of like grabbing for something in my craft. So I'm never satiated, but I have to say I'm a bit of when I can find time. I'm a single mom of a senior in high school, so like I have to also find the time between teaching and parenting and and then so sometimes I'm writing in my classroom, sometimes I'm writing at lunchtime, and sometimes when it's really super lovely, I go down. I live about 6 minutes from the beach. I go down to a cafe that's right now closed for, they're only open for takeout, and I write all day on a Saturday or Sunday, and then I leave my car and then I walk to the beach and treat myself with a little toes in the sand, boats in the marina.
Well, that's nice. That's nice. So the book that you're writing about the twin of the school shooter, is that for young adults?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. I guess I want to skip ahead to that. I had a question about, that's really skipping ahead. Let's see if I can find it.
I can always come back to I can keep replacing it.
Once you've published a picture book, how easy or difficult is it to branch out, transitioning to books for higher grade levels? I mean,
I'm not finding.
Are you agented? Do you have an agent?
I am agented. I was agented in a very strange way. So if we tell that story, I can come back to that. I can bookmark that in my head. But I have to say that I was agented for a picture book. We sold 2 picture books. And then I was able to come back and say, I'm working on this novel. Are you interested in, and can you look at it? Because if you can't sell it, then I don't really, I want to tell the story. It's a very important story, but a novel is like a year's worth of work.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I felt like if you can't sell this, or if you feel like you already have something, like several times it's been like, I have something that's already sold that's like this, and so I can't represent that piece of work. So I showed her, I don't know, probably 32 chapters worth, I think, and she said, yeah, keep going. And so she's waiting, but it takes a long time. Right. So it's easier for me. So what I end up doing is I end up writing kind of a little batch of picture books, and I give them to her so that like I kind of have a little coffer, and then I turn my attention back to this novel and I start kind of headed down that road. And then I'll kind of look and see what's on submission, and are things getting rejected, which is very, very common. And so then I'll fill it again. I'll fill that little box again, and then I'll go back to the novel again. So she's waiting on the novel, but she's now also waiting on a graphic novel from me. So. But
she's open to it.
I feel like when it's done, I said to her, how many do you want to see the final draft, or where down the line do you want to see this? Because after a certain point, it's very hard, as you well know, when you're writing a novel, it's hard to switch gears if somebody hasn't said to you fairly early, that's not a good direction, you're not really headed in the right direction. It's hard to turn the boat around. So I said to her, tell me when and where you want to see it, because it'll be harder for me to turn the boat around once I've got it to a more perfected state. So she said, yeah, I think she said show it to me on the second pass or third pass.
Okay.
But yeah, no, I think it's very doable if you've found an agent who, I don't want to take up all the time, but basically you have a relationship with your agent. And so if your agent knows your body of work, they want to sell your work. That's how they work. And, it's a relationship, and they know you as an artist. And, I think much like if you're an artist, you might do photography, you might paint, you might do assemblages, you do different things at different places in your career.
What about you, Tameka? Are you just doing picture books, or you have ideas for others? Well, you did the anthology you were in.
Right. And that was an opportunity that was brought to me. But yes, I am definitely interested and have ideas for middle grades and even YA, but I'll probably start off with a middle grade. But yeah, if you have an agent, what they're really investing in is you and your career. And so if your creative energies want to go, in a different direction, they're very supportive, as long as it's a children's book. Like my agent only represents, children's books through YA. So if it falls in there, they're for it.
Yeah. Okay. Let me, there were a couple of questions here from our group. As picture book authors, well, I think we kind of answered that. Are you expected by your agent to only produce picture books? Well, obviously it depends on the agent, but it sounds like both of your agents are open to anything from baby books up to YA. But your novel, Zeena, is for YA, right?
Definitely YA.
Yeah. Okay. Somebody else, Lark Sontag asked, does writing by muse just mean when you get in the mood? So no schedule?
For me, it mostly does. It's more when I get an idea. That's what I mean by my muse. And once I get an idea and I start writing it, oh my gosh, then I'm like almost 24/7 just writing on that because I'm inspired. But that is how I work most of the time, as opposed to just saying, okay, at 9 o'clock every day, I'm going to sit down at my computer and I'm going to write for 3 hours straight, which I really wish that was me. And I'm trying to make that me a little bit more. And I do that if I do something, maybe work for hire. But yeah, that's what I mean by muse.
Okay.
Can I, is that okay to add to that?
Yes. Yeah, go ahead.
Just so we don't misrepresent here. Yeah. I will say that I'm held accountable because I belong to 3 different critique groups that meet, at least once a month. And so if I don't bring stuff, then after a while, I'm not a contributing part of the group. And so for me too, I find groups. So right now there's a group that's meeting virtually. They meet at 9:30 on Saturday. They talk for half an hour and then they write for 2 hours and then they come back and they read what they've written in that 2-hour period. So that also ensures that I am at least writing every 2 hours on a Saturday. At least, at the very least. So when I say whim, I'm kind of the same as Tameka. I'm not disciplined in getting up at 5 o'clock every morning and writing for an hour. That's not how I'm working. But that's not to say that there isn't some rhythm to my writing.
Okay. All right.
And everything works differently for everybody depending on who you are.
Yeah.
So there is no right or wrong.
That's true.
Yeah.
Tanya, I'd like to say something because I didn't get to respond to the other question about how do you write, and it's sort of related to this. So I think, the question is about, a muse or when do you write? And I have allowed myself to, sometimes we can get down on ourselves by saying, I'm not always writing something new, but I am always doing what I call writing work. Every day I'm doing something. Right now, I'm doing a lot to promote my book. I'm doing virtual events like this one. I'm sending emails. I've had, a lot of blogger interviews. I'm emailing bookstores, libraries to see, you know, if I can get in there. So there's that whole promotion end. I'm also writing book reviews. People have been so kind to write reviews for me. So I've been writing reviews for, you know, Tameka and Zeena, whose books are already out. And as soon as Praline Lady, I can write one for Kirstie, I certainly will. So, you know, they're just, and it's not always writing something new. Someone was asking the other day if I'd written something new. And quite frankly, I didn't even think I had. But since the pandemic, I have actually written 2 new stories. They're short rhyming stories, but more importantly, I've been really diving into revising. And I have, you know, again, Tameka has seen something I'm continuing to revise, and so is Kirstie, and Zeena has offered to see it, which I so appreciate. So there's a lot of variety. When you're a writer or when you're an author, it's not just about writing things that are new. There is so much other work that we have to do. And so, as I said, I give myself credit for that too, because every day, there's not a day that goes by for me that I'm not doing writing work, even though I'm not always writing a new draft.
Kirstie, you want to try again? I want to. Now you're muted.
Muted. I wonder if a telephone might help if she called in.
Are you able to hear me?
Echo.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
I'm
odd.
sorry.
Yeah,
Okay.
there.
Try calling, yeah, and I'll look for you. Somebody asked in the chat room, since you're talking about marketing, the work that goes into that, because authors these days definitely have to do a lot of their own marketing. Social media is important, but time consuming. What platform do you think is best to use to promote your books? Tameka, you start.
I'm smiling because I think we were just talking about this in the group the other day, weren't we? For me, I think you should pick the social media that you like best, that resonates with you, because you're going to spend more time on it and you're going to be able to build, you know, a presence on it. So that's first and foremost. For picture books, I think things that are a lot more visual, like Instagram is good, and even Facebook. I think those would be the better two. Twitter, for me, from what I've seen, is better for your novelists. Everybody's on everything. Like I have all 3, but that's just, and I love Facebook. That's my jam. So Denise Curl, you know I love Facebook. I'm always on Facebook. So yeah, but whatever works for you and fits your personality, I think that's what's going to be most successful.
Okay. Oh, where is she? Oh, there we go. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. What social media platform would you use for marketing?
So I'm just getting used to the whole social media for promotion. I'm probably not the best person to answer that. I've made great writer friends on Twitter and agents, and met some amazing people on Twitter. Instagram has a good group of people as well for picture books if you're connecting with mommy bloggers and other authors and illustrators, but I'm not sure which one. I agree that it depends on your personality as well.
Okay. Tell us about your writing process, because I don't think we got to hear that.
I really I wish I could say I write every day. I don't. I'm kind of the writer that has to be inspired, and most of what I write requires a lot of research. So it just kind of ebbs and flows for me. I don't have a set schedule. I work full time as well. I have a teenager that I have to still help with schoolwork and responsibility. So yeah, whenever I'm inspired is when I write.
Okay. All right. Okay, we asked about the illustration, how you work with illustrative notes and everything, but I'm just wondering, as you're writing, are you envisioning anything in terms of the illustrations? Zeena.
No, it's like I said, I'm really strange about that. I am a visual learner and I am a visual artist. However, I think it's because I've tried to figure this out. I think it's because I'm a kindergarten teacher, and when I read a book to my students, I'm keyed into the text. I'm not looking at the illustrations. I'm keyed into the text because I'm using it to launch ideas and inquiry. So I'm looking at what those words say, and so I hear picture books. I don't see them, I hear it.
Because yeah, okay, I can see that. What about you, Tameka?
As I'm writing, I'm not really, say, picturing what somebody looks like, but what I'm focused on is making sure that my text lends itself to being illustrated. Like it's really illustratable. And I'm trying to make sure that I vary the scenery, so that, you know, you have interesting illustrations and everything doesn't take place in one room. So that's the extent to which I'm thinking of visually about the book, but not getting into the nitty-gritty details of what somebody looks like or something like that.
Okay. Okay, how different is your final product from the manuscript you first submitted to the publisher? Valerie.
Well, I've only submitted, I've submitted many more than one, but only one that's been accepted. So I have to say, in the case of Let's Dance, what I submitted, it was more the vision that really changed. So the changes were, there were 2 stanzas that she asked me to remove. One, she felt there wasn't step-by-step move with pep. She thought there wasn't necessarily a dance with that. And then there was another one, something about hippity bop, something like that. And she said, that's hip hop and we already have break dancing. So we took those 2 out. And later, though, I think part of the reason she wanted those out, I think most of you know that there is a number of picture books. I mean, there are some variations. Usually it's 32, but there can be above or below. And some of the more experienced writers can clarify that when they speak. But most of them are 32 pages. And she wanted 2 pages for back matter. So she asked me to write a 2-sentence description about each of the 10 dances in the book. But other than that, I mean, none of my words changed. It was amazing. Even when she came up with the ideas for cultural dances, my words remained exactly the same.
Okay, okay. Kirstie? Oh, hold it. Go ahead.
Okay. I had some revisions. I envisioned the book. I wrote it from the main character self-purchasing her freedom, which is what many of the Praline ladies and those street vendors were able to do during slavery. And the publisher didn't want to go that route. They wanted it to be post-Civil War. But they allowed me to include the back matter, which was really important for me to at least get that. So I actually went through a few revisions with my book before it was ready. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Tameka.
For Brown Baby Lullaby, I think I had some minor changes to make. For my first book, it was a total overhaul because it started off as an ABC book.
Oh.
It ended up not being an ABC book. But yeah, so.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Zeena?
For this book, I would say that the story has not changed at all, but the editors, there were 2. There was one, and then halfway through it shifted. Definitely helped to refine the story. So I think the story definitely got better. It's the same story.
Okay.
And it's my understanding the book that's coming out, it doesn't seem like it's changed at all.
Good.
And I offered, so I don't know, we'll see. But up until this point, it doesn't seem like it's changed at all, which was a little bit surprising.
Okay. I want to ask this. How important have writers' conferences been in your journey to get published? And which, if any, do you recommend? Valerie, you're nodding your head.
I'm a nodder. Yeah, so first of all, I recommend Quelly, which is a conference for it's for writers of color, but the official name is escaping me. Children's, if anyone knows, jump in. But it's held in New York every year. This year it was held virtually. And again, because I'm still new in this was my second year at Quelly. I was able to attend last year in New York City and then attended virtually this year. And I also am a member of SCBWI. I'm part of the New England Conference. And so I went to that conference last year. I was very much looking forward to going this year. And, the conference was canceled. So that didn't happen. But I think just connecting with the writing community at conferences, you also have opportunities for critique. When you can see each other, not in a virtual space, you actually get to connect more. And for me, it's worthwhile. I also was recruited to be a founding member at the conference I attended last year of the Equity and Inclusion Committee, and now I'm actually one of the co-leaders. So it's just, I think it's worthwhile. You get a lot of information. There are opportunities to apply for scholarships and grants and things such as that. So I think for me, it's worthwhile, even though I say that I'm still unagented, but I'm still taking advantage of opportunities.
Okay, and thank you, Lark, for putting the address for quellyjournal.org.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Kirstie, did you go to any conferences or?
Writing has been a very lonely endeavor for me. So I can't chime in on conferences and all that. I'm hoping to connect in that way soon, but no.
Okay. Tameka?
Yes, conferences, especially when I was starting out, played a vital role in my writing career. And I always attended my regional SCBWI conference. And I would suggest that anybody who's interested in making a career of writing children's books, and you're just getting started, that you consider joining as well. There is so much information. I mean, we're answering a few questions, but we could never get to it all, right? But there's just such a plethora of information and access to human resources and digital resources and just all kinds of stuff that you have no idea that you need to know, but you need to know it. And SCBWI is an awesome place to get that kind of information. I also went to Quelly 2 years ago when it was in New York for the first time. And that was really good for me as someone who's been writing for a while, because I think SCBWI is good at craft development, especially for new writers. But Quelly was like inspirational and motivational. And like Valerie said, you just were, with your people and found some really, just warm and good relationships. So that was good for me at this stage of my career. So those are the only 2 conferences I've been to.
Okay. How about you, Zeena?
So I just wanted to say SCBWI is the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators. And I think what's really important for people to know is it is the organization that children's book writers belong to, whether you're pre-published or long-time published. So it's kind of like the organization. What's really lovely is that, yes, they have these 2 huge conferences, one in the fall or one in the winter in New York and one in the summer in Los Angeles. but they also break down into these regional groups. So there are these little regional groups. I'm super lucky because I live in Los Angeles. So we have like 3 that are right that I can get to. And then there's San Diego, which I can get to. And then there's the Bay Area that has another like 3 groups that I can get to. In addition to that, I'm super lucky. I'm so lucky. And then in addition to that, they break down into these, the LA branch breaks down into these mingles. And so once a month, you can go to various places in Los Angeles where there are now smaller local groupings of people that become your family. I mean, they really become the people who you are going to interface with, that who are going to get deals before you. And then you're going to be able to call them and say, I don't know how to do this. And then there are going to be the people that come after you. I mean, I can't tell you how important this organization is for children's literature, for kid lit authors, whether you're doing board books or whether you're doing YA novels. I would also say that, so for me, like hands down, pay the $95 and the $80 a year. Like the membership is priceless. The second thing that I would also say is that you write in a vacuum, really, and it's an echo chamber. So you really have no idea how you're progressing in your craft if you don't have other people to bounce stuff off of. So that was one of the first reasons why I joined SCBWI, because I had no idea. And I found also Manuscript Academy, which is run by the same people. Oh no, their names just jumped out of my head. Anyway, it's Manuscript Academy, Jessica Sinsheimer and Julie True Kingsley. So they have there's a manuscript wish list that you can go on and you can find out it's free, you find out who's looking for what in terms of agents and editors. That's such a resource, I can't even tell you. And then there's a paid component called Manuscript Academy, and you can pay for 10-minute meetings with a variety of different editors and agents. And for me, because I was writing in an echo chamber, I don't like to pay for things. I mean, I like to really know, should I pay for this or not? But for me, I was able to pay for a 10-minute meeting and just ask, where am I in my craft? I don't want to know if I'm a good writer or a bad writer. That's not my question. I want to know, where am I in the development of my craft? Am I brand new? Am I a novice? Can you see all over the map that my writing screams novice, novice, novice? Or, you know, where am I? I know I'm not an expert, but where am I? And I was able to get that answered. And I was also able to be told, you should probably be querying now, because I wouldn't have started querying. I had no idea. So those, for me, those two
And
have
thank
really
you,
helped.
Lark. Thank you, Lark, for putting up the manuscriptacademy.com link.
And Manuscript, and it's run by, it's also the manuscript wish list. So I think you can even just go hashtag manuscript wish list, owned by the same people, and that's a free service. You can go on and you can see what agents and editors are looking for. Are they only taking picture books? Do they take all kinds of writing? All those questions get answered by that free service, Manuscript Wish List.
Cool. Okay. And so you started query. So tell me, how many query letters did you send out before you got Hello, Little One accepted?
Nobody wanted Hello, Little One. Not even
Well,
my own
it's been
agent.
published, so somebody wanted it.
It was a story of serendipity. It was definitely a story of serendipity. But I did not traditionally get an agent in the way that I thought I was. I thought I was going to query. An agent was going to say, send me your stuff. I love your work. Let me represent you. That's not at all how it happened. I took a class at Otis College.
No. Save your query. Save your agent story for part 2. Okay.
Got it.
Because,
So not that many, maybe a dozen.
okay. How about you, Tameka?
What was the question again?
How many query letters did you send out before you got your first taker?
Well, I was querying for a while before I got an agent, way back in the olden days. And, I didn't sell my manuscript. But once I got an agent, and that took me, let's see, I joined STBWI in 2005, and I believe I received an offer of representation in 2007. So
Didn't you
that's what.
query to get an agent?
Yes, I did query and to get an agent, but I only sent out maybe over that time, maybe 5. And it wasn't in a batch because I wasn't sure at that time, you didn't really have to have an agent. There were still a lot of houses that were accepting unsolicited manuscripts. Mm-hmm. So I was on the fence as to whether or not I really wanted one or not. But I was actually about to leave writing altogether because I wasn't selling anything. And so before I left, I said, okay, I'm going to do just this one last ditch effort, and I'm going to try to get an agent. And if I don't get an agent, I think that's just a message that I'm not supposed to be doing this. And so when I did that with that intention, I ended up getting an agent. So that was
great.
That's awesome.
How about, Kirstie, did you send out queries?
I did. It's probably dozens, actually. Yeah.
Did one of them finally take, or?
Well, yeah, that's how I connected with my publisher. So
okay.
Yeah, it took some time.
Okay. Well, we're at 8:00. Should we wrap it up and do a part 2 another time?
Sure. May I respond to that, though? I'd like to respond to that question because I found my publisher not in the typical way either. And this is something I really want our listeners to know about if they don't already, is I was found in a Twitter pitch. And so my approach has been, which some would say is maybe not the best approach, but I have sent to publishers who accept manuscripts, I've sent to agents, and I've sent to editors, and I participate in contests and Twitter pitches. I really try to take advantage of all opportunities. So for Let's Dance, I think I counted, because I had to count up for an interview. I think it was like either 24 or 26. I had, times I had tried, and it was liked in a Twitter pitch. And that was how I was found. So Twitter pitches, can the listeners just raise their hands? Do you know what Twitter pitches are? Because if you do, okay, I'm getting a no, so I'll talk about it. So there are different types of pitches. So there's hashtag PB pitch, which is for picture book authors only. There's hashtag Pit Mad, which is usually over 2 days. There's one day, I think it's for a picture book in middle grade, and then the other day might be for YA or even YN and adult. There's also hashtag Faith Pitch. If you have something faith-based, there's hashtag DV Pit for diverse authors. So there are lots of opportunities, and what you do is you have a short, snappy pitch describing your book. It's obviously got to be in Twitter form, so 280 characters or less. And then you also get to use other hashtags, like whatever would make sense. So like for Zeena's book, it might say hashtag, butterfly, or hashtag, or, if you want to describe yourself, it could be hashtag POC for person of color, or hashtag TV, whatever hashtags. You definitely want your if it's not picture book pitch, you definitely want hashtag PB or hashtag MG, so people know what genre. So you always want to hashtag your genre. And if an agent or editor gives you a like, you can look up that person's submission guidelines, and you can decide if you want to query. And so it is a way, if you are unagented, to to get people interested. So, and just because they ask for it, number one, it doesn't mean you have to send it if you feel the person is not a fit for you. And number two, just because you send it doesn't mean they're going to actually accept the manuscript. Because I've had other likes and I've sent other manuscripts and they have not been picked up. But it's definitely something else to take advantage of.
That's cool. I had no idea about that. Thank
Yeah.
you for sharing that.
Sure.
Okay, well, we're going to wrap it up for now, and I'll save the rest of my questions for another time, and I'll be in touch with all of you
Okay.
after I talk to the panelists and we figure out when we can do this again. So have a great evening, all of you, and I will let you know about the recording too.
Great.
Thank you
you.
so much.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
You're welcome. Stay safe and well, everybody.
You too, Tanya.
You
Thanks
too.
for hosting us.
You're welcome.
Good night,
Thanks, Tanya.
everyone.
Night.